No food, no water after Cyclone Idai, mounting confusion, hunger, and grief in Mozambique. BUZI, Mozambique UI in the week. Since Cyclone Idai triggered unprecedented flooding in central Mozambique, there have been speculative death tolls in the thousands, but barely any bodies recovered. The newly homeless are estimated to be in the hundreds of thousands, across dozens of towns and villages, but there are no camps yet to house them. The United Nations elevated its emergency level here to be on par with Yemen and the Central African Republic, both in grinding and brutal civil wars. Key relief teams, confusion, anger, and grief have inundated this low-lying region in central Mozambique, already hit by 3 weeks of unending downpours, about 600 miles northeast of Johannesburg. On Saturday, the Mozambican government said the official death toll from flooding here stood at 417, but President Filipe Nyusi speculated earlier this week that more than 1,000 had likely died. Some here fear that a worrying picture is emerging in which thousands perished between Idai landfall on Friday and the height of the floods on Sunday, before aid agencies had started responding or even flown over the area to assess the damage. The cyclone also set off landslides that killed hundreds in the hilly areas of neighboring Zimbabwe and Malawi. But all that water, many were likely swept away, while others died of exhaustion while stranded. Constant rain it will be heartbreaking once we know the full extent, said Sebastian Rhodes Stampa, who is directing the UN's response, as he has for other massive tropical storms such as Typhoon Haiyan in 2016 in the Philippines, which killed more than 10,000 per his estimate. Most of the bodies, this Friday, as the floods receded, a 6-boat Indian Navy rescue squad was diverted from open ocean training exercises into a full-fledged emergency life-saving mission along the muddy Buzi River, which burst its banks. Slideshow by Photo Services. Boats can rescue far more people than helicopters, but both are in short supply. The Mozambican boat rescues have been left to the Indians, who are mostly trainees in their early 20s and local fishermen. In a Red Cross news release on Friday, the organization said that the town of Buzi, along the river of the same name, had reportedly disappeared, with the water as high as the palm trees. When we reached Buzi, instead of finding people to rescue, confused and angry crowds confronted the young Indian Navy recruits, questioning why they hadn't brought food or water on the boats. The Indians we don't want to go to Beira, shouted a young man named Graciel Chongo, referring to the large port city, 2 hours by boat from Buzi, where aid agencies are headquartered. We have no one there. Only 1 out of the 6 Indian boats returned to Beira with people who wanted to leave Buzi. It left as the crowd. At another point along the river, where the bloated corpses of 2 cows floated right down the middle, the shouts of a group of 10 people waving their arms on the bank were barely audible over the roar of the boats. A bit shaken by while aid agencies have said what happened in Buzi was apocalyptic, people there said only 15 people in the large town were unaccounted for. Aid officials for the first few days after the cyclone, we were in a black hole, and it isn't much better now for information, said Deborah Nguyen, a spokeswoman for the World Food Programme. First, in Beira, home to 500,000 people were quickly rebuilding. The trees, in Beira's heyday as a tourist destination for South Africans, it was home to sprawling resorts. Its downtown is now much of the city resembles a squatter's camp. The Red Cross if the rain ever stops, we will find out what has happened to our city, to our country, said Sergio Sambo, a rickshaw driver who now sleeps in the 3-wheeler's back seat. We pray.
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park,